Hello Stampers! I've got a little card for you today that's got a birdhouse and a lake, and I just think it's a cheerful card. And we're going to be using the Garden Birdhouses from Stampin Up. It's a beautiful set. So we're going to use that, and along with this embossing folder that I used in the background, which is the gingham embossing folder, also from Stampin Up. And all the dimensions for this card are down below this video. Just click show more under the description and you'll see them all listed there, along with all the product links. And those links will take you directly to my online store where you can shop from me 24/7. Now let's get into this card. We're going to start with our background, and we're going to use some directed paper and some sponging, and it's all going to come together fairly simple. And I love directed paper because it's just so quick. One thing about directed paper is that you want to make sure that your ink pad is inked up. A dry ink pad doesn't work well with this. We're going to use the short end of our ink pad, and we're going to use it at an angle. If you have it flat, too flat, your paper will grab it and you'll just have a big blob of color there. So make sure you have it at an angle, and you can go over it a couple times. I like to just streak mine on. I'm using a light pressure there. My ink pad is really well inked, and this is So Saffron ink. So there is my yellow sky, just that quick. So Saffron, and then I'm going to use Coastal Cabana for our water. Again, I'm going to use that short edge at an angle, but I'm going to turn my paper a different direction just so it's easier for me to pull it down. It's easier to pull it down than to try to swipe it up. So have your paper turned so that you're pulling the color down. Okay, so I'm just going to go over this a couple times so I got some good color there for my water. Sky, water, voila, done. Okay, so that was Coastal Cabana, and we're going to bring in some Bermuda Bay with this, and I'm going to make like a little hill in our background. I like to have like a middle ground, like this would be my background, and I need something kind of middle ground here, so I'm going to take a post-it note. These are 3x5 post-it notes. So I'm going to grab one of these, and I'm going to put it right below the horizon line. It's probably 1/8 of an inch. You could probably go even 1/4 of an inch. Depends on how far you want your little background hill there to be the scene. So I'm going to take a sponge. Now I get these, you can get these craft sponges from Amazon. I'll provide a link down below this video for them also. I used to get them from Stampin' Up, but they've retired theirs. So you can pick them up at Amazon just as quick, and they come in like a circle, and I just cut them in like 8 pieces. So you got plenty of sponges. I'm using a sponge because I like the frilly edge that it leaves on it. The blending brushes are awesome from Stampin' Up, but they're more smooth. They don't leave that frilly edge that I like. So I'm going to pat in this hill, and I'm going to come down in towards the middle of this water here. And I'm just going to pat it in. Like I said, I like that frilly edge it leaves, like bushes or something, right? And that's how I get that in. And then when you remove your post-it note, there's your little hill in there. It's super cute. So that was with Bermuda Bay ink. So there was that sponge that we used. And now we're going to use another sponge, and I'm going to put in some grasses at the bottom with this sponge. And I'm going to use Old Olive ink. And I'm just going to pounce these in along the bottom here, and I'm probably about 1 inch tall, right? And look at that frilly edge that you get with this, with the sponge. You can't get that with the blending brush. So for some projects, I just like using a sponge just to get a certain look. Okay, so there's our Old Olive grasses in there. Next, I'm going to grab some Memento Tuxedo Black, and I'm going to use another sponge here, and I'm going to do that same thing. I'm pouncing this on, and I'm just going to take it along the bottom here. And that'll make it look like the grasses that are getting lit up a little bit by the sunshine when you put this dark at the bottom. So it really helps with that old olive just shining there at the top of it. So that was Memento Tuxedo Black. And I'm going to keep that black out for a minute here. Let's go ahead and stamp our branch. So I have the branch from the Garden Birdhouse Stamp Set. And I'm going to ink this up real well here. And I'm going to stamp it along the top of this page here. I want the actual branch part of it to be very close to the top of the scene. Kind of like that. And then I'm going to stamp, I think, some more leaves like here. Just so it doesn't look so cut off there, like there's just one branch. There's multiple branches. So there are our branches. And next I'm going to add our little, this is like a little line stamp, and it has like a partial circle at the bottom, and that is what our birdhouse will be hanging from. I'm going to stamp this, have it coming off of one of these tree branches here. Let's see, how far do I want this? Let's do about right here. Okay, so there's my line coming down. And next I'm going to bring in a scrap piece of white cardstock. If I didn't tell you, this piece that we're working on right now is 3 7/8 square. And so I just have an additional piece of basic white here, and I'm going to stamp my little birdhouse on it using this Memento Tuxedo Black also. So there's my birdhouse. And I'm going to add the birdhouse, and I'm going to cover that little circle there with the top of this birdhouse. There we go. So we have it on our scene and on this piece of white cardstock. So there is the birdhouse, and now I just want to color the birdhouse a bit. And I'm going to bring in some blends here. And we're only going to color this one on the white. And this is the Dark Crumb Cake Stampin' Blend. And this I'm going to color in the roof. And you can leave the little white sections white if you want to. Here's the little stoop for the birds to go in. And then the bottom of the birdhouse is colored with this Dark Crumb Cake. And then I'm going to add this is Light Smoky Slate, and I want to add a shadow. I'm going to add a shadow underneath. So this is a straight line underneath the roof and underneath the little stoop, and that really gives it some dimension, the shadow does. All right, so now I'm just going to cut this out. Doesn't take long to cut this little birdhouse out. The open circle part of the birdhouse at the top, I'm cutting off. We have it on the main panel, so we don't need it there. To cover it up, and that way we don't have to try to cut out the center of that circle. So there's my birdhouse cut out, and I omitted that circle at the top. Use this multi-purpose glue here, and we'll add this on. You use whatever adhesive you have. And I'm going to cover up that birdhouse there. See how that just pops off the page now? And I'm going to use the thin line side of our crumb cake marker again, and I'm just going to color in that at the top, leaving the circle part yellow. And that way it looks like you can look through it. Okay, so now I just want to add another swipe of this smoky slate, I think, on there. Because these stripes pretty light. So if you see something that seems like it's too light for you, just go back over it again. All right, so now I have my birdhouse in, and I want to color my leaves in, and just quickly with the brush end. I'm not really coloring every leaf. I'm just kind of scribbling over them. You can get real technical with this. I do not. Doesn't take long when you just kind of scribble over them. There we go, voila. Now we need some highlights. I'm going to use a white gel pen, and I'm going to link below for this too, for Amazon. And first of all, I want to add some dots in the grasses. I'm making little groups of lines of dots, and that just looks like you've got something growing up in your grasses here, and it just really lightens up the scene. Make sure that you're holding your cardstock firmly down, else you'll end up with check marks instead of dots. And I just love these little dots in the tops of this grass. So there is that part. And they're just so cute. All right, so I want some highlights in the leaves. So I'm going to add some highlights in these outer leaves, just along one edge of them. And I'm actually coloring on the green part with the pen. Otherwise you're not going to see it real well over that yellow. And really just these outer leaves, and a couple down here. And I don't worry too much about the ones backed up through here. I always like to clean my tip of my brush, my gel pen off. And when I store it, I'm going to store it this way, just laying down. I've tried storing them upright to where the ink runs into the point, but I found they dry the tip out there. But you, if you wipe the tip off and then have it just laying down, I think your pen will last longer for you. Okay, so there is our scene. It's all done. How cute, right? You can always put a little water lines if you find that you want a little more white in your water. Just add a little gel pen in there. Just little teeny dashes. So there's that. And now we're ready to assemble, I think. So I have a panel here of Old Olive, and it's 3 by 5.5, and I embossed it with that embossing folder that I was telling you about earlier, the gingham embossing folder. So there it is here, and I want to add some more color to this embossed panel. And I'm going to get my Old Olive here. I'm just going to use direct-to-paper on this and very lightly run it over this panel here, just like that, and it just really brings out that design. Now this is going to dry a bit lighter, so it looks kind of dark now, but it will dry a bit lighter. I'm going to take my main panel and I'm going to adhere it to an Old Olive panel that is 4 inches square. There we go. And then I cut 2 little squares out of Coastal Cabana, and they're 1.5 inch squares. So we're going to take this, I'm going to add a little of this glue down in one corner. Then I'm going to stick it to the back of our panel. And I just want, about 1/8 of an inch of showing. And then I'm going to do that again, and I'm going to place it on the bottom corner. There we go. Give it a little look to see if they're about even. Looks good to me. Okay, let that dry for a second, so we'll put that aside just for a moment. Okay, I have a Coastal Cabana card base, and this is 5.5 by 8.5, and then I folded it in half for a quarter card. Inside it put an old olive panel in here that's 4 by 5.25, and then a basic white panel that's 3 3/4 by 5. And then outside will go our embossed panel, and I'm going to put it clear over to the left side. I make sure I have lots of adhesive in the center of these embossed panels so they adhere well, since they're so textured. So I'm just adding this on. Here we go. Oh. Okay, and then I'm going to adhere this onto the card front, and I'm just going to have just a bit of that card base showing on the right side there. Add your adhesive on. Here we go. And there's our card front. And now it's all ready to gift to a friend or a loved one. So our card's all complete. I hope this inspires you to get those inks out and get your hands inky today. Thanks for joining me. Bye.